afternoon, everybody. I would like to welcome you to the Virtual Tech Summit Conference Volume 2. This session is called Effective Municipalities, Digitalization of Municipalities. First, I would like to thank to our partners. This session is in the cooperation with Banská Bystrica self-governing region. And we wouldn't be able to organize this Tech Summit, Virtual Tech Summit without our partners. The main partner is British Embassy in Bratislava. The partners are Bratislava self-governing region, the company Xolution Limited, company ECM Eco Monitoring, company SEAC Lighting Controls and Energy Efficiency Management, and our supporters are Bratislava Old City District, Upcoming Tell You Story, Annual Slido, Superstany, and GoUp Online Agency. My name is Ján Králik, and I will guide you through this discussion. I hope that the previous panels you liked, and I thank you that you are connected in this situation to our program, to our session, to our Virtual Tech Summit Volume 2. First of all, I would like to welcome our today's speakers. First of all, Mr. Brian Bishop from United Kingdom. He is a representative of the company Data Performance Consultancy Limited. Then Mr. Jaroslav Káčer from Czech Republic, who is a smart city expert. Mr. Libor Bešenyi from the company Xolution Europe. And Mr. Heliodor Macko, who is a representative of the company SEAC Energetics. So, dear guests, welcome. I would like to thank you again to join our session. And first of all, I would like to ask you to introduce yourself very briefly. So let's start with our British guest.
My name is Brian Bishop. I'm Chief Executive of Data Performance Consultancy Limited, based in the UK. I also sit on UK, United Kingdom's Research and Innovation panel of experts for smart cities. We're looking at delivering smart city solutions which are focused around communities, social impact, and delivering the right data models for smart cities.
Thank you. Now, I would like to ask Mr. Káčer to introduce himself.
Hello, my name is Jaroslav Káčer, and I am the former deputy mayor of the city of Brno. We started a lot of smart city projects. For example, Brno ID, this is some electronic identity, data portal, data.brno.cz, and much more another projects. For example, we were the members of the Horizon project with the smart district Špitálka in Brno. And now I am the expert for the smart cities, and I help the municipalities, etc. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bešenyi, would you introduce yourself?
Hello. I'm from company Xolution, and we are focusing on artificial intelligence. We are a member of research group, Slovakian research group of artificial intelligence, and we are focusing on conversation automation. So that means chatbots, voice bots, phone bots, and mail bots. Thank you.
Thank you for your introduction. And last but not least, Mr. Heliodor Macko. Please.
Hi, my name is Heliodor Macko, and I'm from company SEEK from Prešov, Slovakia. We are manufacturing smart lighting for smart cities and EV charging systems.
Good. Thank you. at the beginning, I will read a couple of sentences which we have prepared to introduce the topic, and then we will start the discussion. So, the Corona crisis shows the real situation in cities and its phase of adaptability to the new situation, as well as the importance of transforming into a smart city. It is necessary to revive the economy, but it will not come without transforming the functioning of the city. These days show how important it is to support local innovators who should create intelligent solutions for transport, tourism, social services, and maybe in current situation, most importantly, for health services. So this is our topic. First of all, I will ask Mr. Káčer, because his perspective is the closest one to the view of the municipality and the needs of municipalities. What is the first lesson learned from this situation? What does it tell to you? What is your experience? And what is the experience from the cities in your opinion?
I think it's the unique opportunity for changing, maybe for the change the approach, because what is never imagine use to digital platform for the remote function of the cities. It's the necessary now. This is the first step. What I think it's very important. But the second step, what I think, or maybe what I recommend, is analyze this situation, how to function the remote control, what's the feedback of the staff or of the employee, because this analysis is necessary for the next steps, for the maybe preparing for the long time solution. For example, like home office for the whole of the time for some position in the municipality. That's, I think, it's really good. But what I have one alert, and this is already for the digitalization. It's some privacy and data protection, because we heard or we saw a lot of application what's help the municipalities of the nation level of government, but sometimes is the problem with the tracking and use the data. This is very tiny border between the functionality and between the privacy.
Yeah. So there is a term, disruptive innovation. Do you think this is the right moment for introducing such innovation? Is this the reason? Is this the driver of disruptive innovation? Do you expect now there will be a strong need for innovation, or do you believe rather the life will go back to business as usual?
Nothing, it's not the same, because what it's to this time normal, it's the change. But I think, yes, this is the right time for the spreading the innovation. This is unique opportunity. For example, now really use what is the smart city, the agenda, because I met a lot of people, because they talk about the smart city, but never don't understand what is the smart city. It's not about the high-tech technology only, but this is with the process, the innovation process. Maybe this is some ways to make the optimization of the process, use some agile process for the outsourcing some IT solution, etc.
So Another topic might be, or another perspective might be, to keep this sense of urgency which developed during this first wave of Corona crisis, to foster readiness for the next wave. That might be a very specific goal, a very short-term goal, let's say until the autumn, what the cities and municipalities could be prepared for. Do you think that might be a good driver for the changes at the municipality level? The
Yes,
fear of the next wave of COVID crisis.
Yes, the digitalization for me use the new process for the digitalization and use the removed some application is the necessary, because yes, but I am not the medicine or some specifics pandemic expert, but I read a lot of articles about yes, is it possible to go another pandemic, maybe another illnesses for the future, and it's necessary to be prepared and to be protected for the staff to make some remote functional, or prepare another things in the cities what is necessary. For example, the relax zones for the relax time of the inhabitants, or much more cycles, roads, etc. Maybe should prepare some solution for the department of a municipality, how to close the roads and use for the walking, or for the cyclists for the relaxed time, if the city have to lock down.
Okay.
This is the same part for the smart cities, not only the technology.
Yeah. Good. Perfect. Thank you. Let's move to Brian, to the United Kingdom. So, what is your experience, your perspective? I don't mean just your from your professional perspective, but how do you think you are dealing with the COVID crisis, and how do you think it can contribute to the development to much faster development of smart cities?
I think what COVID has brought is essentially a type of social resetting. This in itself can develop new transformational models. And I know that here in the UK, we are looking at this very, very closely. Your colleague has just mentioned about new ways in which we can develop new techniques around how we look at ways such as transport issues, health issues, procurement issues, and I think over the last few months, the UK has seen a real change in the way that they can deliver these services. In the city that I come from, Liverpool, we've started to develop what's called a civic data trust model, because what we have identified is that one of the failings that we've had in the past is how we use data for social good. I think you tend to find that society as a whole has a lack of trust with the way governments deal with things, where local authorities deal with things. And what I've seen here in the UK is the beginnings of that change, where we start to open up data to try to provide information to residents, about exactly what is going on in a trustworthy environment. And that, I think that word trust is very key. Again, your colleague mentioned about privacy and governance. I think what the UK has decided to do is to really set an agenda around this area of development of trustworthy research environments within cities, and to show how then cities can connect with each other to solve city challenges. And COVID is a perfect example of a disaster. It could be any type of disaster, whether it's a hurricane or an earthquake. It's, they have similar impacts, on communities, but it's how you start to communicate, with people. And that transparency and that governance is very important. We start to build what's called smart ecosystems. So trying to connect up with not just residents, but also with supply chains to try and solve issues a lot more effectively than what we did at the very beginning of this pandemic. We had huge issues about PPE, personal protective equipment, and medical devices, trying to find businesses that could assist in solving the challenges that were faced by the pandemic. It was very reactive rather than proactive. And I think what we are now developing is an ability to start to connect these things up, to become smarter. And that isn't just, as your colleague said, just about technology. It's about actually developing the lines, the networks that you need to create to solve, these particular problems.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems to me as well that the way how the municipalities are operating nowadays is very practical. It's not theoretical exercise anymore. They have to deliver very quickly. And this is maybe a very positive change. I would like to stop for a while at the topic of data protection. From my experience, it seems that the GDPR legislation is very, very strict and kind of prohibitive for data exchange, the private data exchange, even between social and health care workers in a peacetime, but also between the municipalities and other services providers in this, let's say, wartime with COVID. So what is your experience from the United Kingdom? What is your perspective? Because GDPR legislation is valid in the UK yet, I think, still. So
it is, and we also have the Data Protection Act as well. It has barriers. It does have these things, but what we've been trying to do is, as I mentioned before, the development of a civic data trust model is trying to open up data based on purpose through consent. And the only way you can deliver that is through a very strong communication line as to what the purpose of the data is being used for. So an example being in the UK, the GPs, the doctors, are very reticent about providing data about their patients in case that data is being used by pharmaceutical giants. However, if the data through consent was used to look at ways in which they can deliver better care pathways, then it's more appropriate for a patient to provide consent based on that purpose. So what we are doing is the development of smart workflows, which is connecting that ecosystem up to say that a patient has given consent for his GP to provide data to an NHS trust to use for that particular purpose. So that is then governed through that regulatory boundary, and that's one of the areas that we are looking to deliver. Similarly, when you look at things like medical devices or equipment, it's about developing that trusted environment which validates the certification around the products and services that an organization can deliver. So again, it's that's essentially what we are now building the foundations of our smart cities on.
So yeah, shortly, your approach is more consent-based, and with the consent, then you have much more freedom to work with the data. But I understand there has to be very high level of trust and openness from the side of those who receive the consent from the citizens. So this is how I understand your importance of your initiative.
Yeah. Can I just explain an
Sure.
example of what we're building at the moment? There was a community action group based in our city who were concerned about pollution levels from the port area, because a lot of freight and traffic from China was coming into the port, and lorries were going from the port to the motorway networks. And they were arguing that this pollution was causing health issues within their communities. So by developing a civic data trust model, you try to solve the challenges of the communities first and foremost by providing them with an environment that the data that they will see is trusted. So essentially you get buy-in from the community about what the purpose of the data is going to be used for. And you can then start to solve strategic problems that a city faces, in the respect that because of a planning issue, all traffic was just going down one particular road. So again, it's about that involvement of public, private, academic, and community that then starts to build that consent model, which we're trying to deliver here.
Yep. Perfect. This is very valuable experience. Now, I would like to move to Mr. Bešenyi. What is your perspective on those topics? I mean, what is most important for you, or what would you like to stress based on your experience?
As Mr. Kaczor said, it looks like Korona speed up everything what was necessary from a military perspective, and show us how local authorities, for example, were not being prepared to communication of crisis. All phones has been busy, and people were unable to find valid information, and information has been changed from hour to hour. And this is, I think, what is necessary to change. And from my perspective, this is something what is very easy to handle. And in the past, when we were in some cities, we had a discussion about this issue, and people said, yes, but people would like to talk to another people, not to machines. But I think this crisis shows us when we are looking for information like about results of testing, if I am positive or negative on virus, I really need this information as soon as possible, and I don't need to hear it from another person. So I think this is something what will change in this area.
So, as far as I know, you have also a product line or solution for this. Could you explain us how your solution, for example, could solve a very practical, particular problem of a municipality or government?
As I said, we are focusing on communication. So basically, we are providing automation of phones, and for example, a robot can pick up the telephone and can answer the most frequent questions. The challenge in that case is, as I mentioned, information are changing from hour to hour, and that means it is not just about informations and answers. It is about options, how we can handle the answers, because everything is changing. So this is linked, for example, to semantic search, and we provided solutions when information has been changed, for example, in a Word document, and the robots has been able to answer and looking for information from this document, and this document was changed, for example, on a daily basis or hourly basis. So these solutions are really ready to go, and it is possible to use it. And I think, as I mentioned, crisis show us we really need to do it, because in peak time, when you have, let's say, 2 or 5 people which are able to respond on telephones, in crisis era, it is not enough. So if you have, for example, 1,000 phones in one moment, it is not possible to handle by human. There is necessary to provide some kind of automation.
And you have solutions for dealing with the capacity problem in the peak times of communication demand from the population, and one of the positives of this solution, as I understood, is that you can very quickly, let's say on the go, update the content. So once there is a new content, you don't need to make training to the people, to the staff who is answering. You are just changing something in the code or setup, and then all the changes in the communication are already implemented. So this seems to be a very flexible way. So my other question to you would be, speaking about the possibility of the next wave of COVID crisis, which might appear in autumn somewhere. What would you recommend to the municipalities to do in very, very practical terms? How to prepare for such situation? Maybe not only from the perspective of your own solution, maybe also in general, your observation about, okay, now it's behind us for a while, at least here in Slovakia, but how to prepare for the next wave, which might be even worse, nobody knows.
Yes, this is a very good question, and basically we are focusing on private sector, so I can compare it, but however we have also some activities around the smart cities, so I can compare private sector and smart cities, and I would start doing this exactly on the way how it is doing companies. So we really need to focus on processes, because you can't automatize activities without the process. And when we were in Košice, in one office, basically there were no process. So I asked them, why you are not doing processes? Without process, you can't automatize things, because if you are automatize something what is not formal, you will have very efficient informality. So it is not very good way how to doing this. So my point of view is all offices and local authorities should start with auditing of processes, who is doing what and why, and from this IT directors or IT consultant can create some process how to automatize them, because first we need to automatize, and from automatization process it can be created a lot of data, and we can analyze this data and provide predictive analysis. For example, it doesn't matter, but from data you can continue in artificial intelligence. But what I'm facing in our local authorities, there are missing processes, so it is not easy to automatize anything right now, and as soon as possible that local authorities in Slovakia should start with processes.
Again, to my question, in the course of next 4 months, before maybe the next COVID crisis will hit, what exactly, one thing maybe, one measure, what the municipalities should do? Should they focus on solving the communication demand problem in that time, or is there anything else you would recommend?
As I said, 4 months is too short a time. So from my point of view, they need to start with processes, and from a 4 months perspective, it is too late to do anything. For example, in automation of conversation and so on. So this is my opinion on that thing. So I can't say what they can do or what can't do, because 4 months is really too short.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Now we will move to Mr. Macko. From the perspective of your profession, your professional focus, what does it say to you?
Well, I will talk from the standpoint of a smart lighting company. And I have to say that when this crisis has come, to put it into a broader perspective, for our foreign friends, here in Slovakia, as of January this year, we have a significant tax cut for small companies and self-employed people. And this tax cut is, of course, a good thing, but it means that this money will be missing in the budgets of the municipalities. So municipalities started to cope with expected loss of income. And in the middle of this, the coronavirus came. And so the municipalities are now trying to scrooge money where they can. When it comes to lighting, many of these companies are trying to save money on public lighting. I know of several municipalities that are simply turning the light off after midnight or even earlier, just to save money on electricity. This is something that I personally would not recommend to do for safety reasons, and for a simple fact, if there will be a traffic accident or whatever crime, the victim in the end can sue the municipality for not providing the lighting. If there was a smart lighting implemented already, it is possible to decrease the intensity and to lower the energy budget in the end. But if it was not implemented and the only possibility for the municipality is to turn the light off in certain hours, then I'm afraid this option is not legal or not safe to use for the cities. So to keep it short, yes, it is late now to think about, yes, if we had this before, what we could save some money. We are talking about tens of thousands of euro that every small city can save using temporary decrease of lighting and light intensity in certain hours on certain places within the city. However, when I'm talking to municipalities, they tell me that, well, you know, it's very complicated times now. Don't talk to me about innovations. We have now completely different problems. We can't really focus now on the innovation. But I think that the right answer is that, yes, maybe it is late, but it is never too late. And when it comes to implementing innovations that would help you flexibly control lighting, if it is from our company or somebody else, flexible chatbot communication implemented, or better processes, or better data analytics, it's never better time than now. because the next wave of coronavirus is going to come. Nobody says it is easy, but there will not be better time to start than it is now.
Thank you. Some remarks to the mantra of saving money from my side. In my perspective, it's totally wrong attitude nowadays, and I don't think it's a problem of municipalities because they are very tight with their budgets. It's more a problem of the central government, where we expected a huge support, spending a lot of money to keep the economy running, and even spend more than we expected, than it was expected before. And a good proportion of this money could be kind of invested into innovation, into disruptive innovation, with the task to solve the problems much more quickly, to allocate much more capacity on solving problems which are on the top nowadays, because the COVID, I mean, it's comparable with the wartime situation, where you spend money on military innovation, but in this case, it's not the war in the sense of military conflict. It's the war against the situation, against the crisis situation, against the virus. And it's not only biomedical battlefield, it's also technological battlefield. And let's say behavioral, organizational battlefield. So what I would expect is that the government will spend money on this and spend the money massively. We have around 2 billion euro in the European funds which are not spent, which will definitely stay unallocated until the end of this programming period. So this might be the money which, if well invested, could bring much more value than just to fight or to win the fight against the COVID. They could bring also long-term benefits, because we can start to reshape our life. One of the speakers used, Brian from UK used a nice expression, social resetting and new transformational models. So this is something which might be supported by the money of central government. So definitely saving money in this time is also, from the economical perspective, is a wrong attitude. So everybody, even the very conservative economists, say now is the time to spend money. Even, I mean, if I slightly shift it to waste money a little bit, I mean, to spend it much more than it would be reasonable in the peacetime. So this is just some of the comments. I don't know whether you agree or disagree with me, so maybe this might be a next round topic. What do you think about it? So maybe we can start with Brian again, and then move to Mr. Kačer.
Yeah, sure. I think there's some very important points made by the panelists. There was a mention there of processes. In the UK, we suffer a lot from silos, where you've got municipalities, cities competing against each other, when actually they should now be connecting with each other to start to solve challenges and share funding to solve these challenges, because most of these challenges are similar across cities. But the mention of processes is very, very, very important. For us to do that, what we as a company have been developing is what's called a process classification framework, which starts to bridge together common processes within cities to start to share information about how to deliver services. And that connects directly to one of the other points that was made about lighting. There are new models for social impact investments into cities. I believe the figure is in the region of $1 trillion of social impact investments that cities can attract to show that they can deliver not just savings but environmental efficiency. But these are processes that still need to be developed, within the city to manage that. Now, it can create then inclusive growth within those cities. So you get businesses to move from familiar territories around, say, electrical maintenance to installation of energy efficient measures within the city, stimulating growth within the cities themselves. So what the point I'm trying to make here is that you need to start to think holistically about what the strategy of a municipality is in line with national objectives, and try to develop inclusive growth by driving new transformational models and innovation through the right process. So that is something that the UK is determined to invest in, and UKRI and the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy has made that their key objective post-COVID, to start to learn those lessons whilst we've got an opportunity to do so.
So, in your perspective, just to summarize it, to make the transformation in how the municipalities work, how they behave, is, let's say, the highest priority now, the post-COVID, in the post-COVID situation. And the second was the civic data trust model. Would you say those are the two highest priorities for now?
Yes, we need to stimulate the economy. There's no getting away from that. But we also need to prepare for any other disaster, whether it's COVID or any other type of pandemic. But placing process in place to develop the communication lines between a smart ecosystem is that priority. And doing it in a way that is consensual and with a purpose. So that is the priority, defining the right data models as well, within those processes, then starts to create that smart model for cities. It then creates the trust and brings together not just the political will, but the social will from communities to say, well, this is technology that is having a benefit to me, as well as delivering the right type of information for strategists to start to create short-term, medium-term and long-term goals.
Yeah. So the first ultimate goal is to have to get to the resilient status of against the crisis, but the byproduct of this is a process, a technological advantage which can then serve all other purposes, the efficiency and the economy and so on. This is very, very interesting and very important. I would put it short in a slogan that smart municipalities can make value of smart technologies. So now we are talking about smart municipalities, process-driven municipalities, which then can much better to use the advantages of the technologies, because many times we see that the technologies are producing data, but there is nobody who would make use of this data for decision making and so on. So this is just an example. Mr. Káčer, what would you say? Would you endorse as well the change or the transformation in the process management of municipalities as the, let's say, highest priority let's say at least midterm priority, or you would stress another aspect?
I fully agree with Mr. Bešenyi, because the process is much more important, because the processes on municipality is maybe on the Austrian-Hungarian age, and this is really long, and it's necessary to describe all of the processes, then optimization, then use the new technology. Maybe this is some cut of the outcomes, etc. And this is saving money, because this this age or now, I repeat, this is the unique opportunity for the changes, and now in my opinion, is the pressure for the efficiency. It's not only the cut, because yes, in the first mind, a lot of politicians in the municipality level, yes, we save the money because we need, but the necessary is optimization the process. Maybe there is a lot of stuffs. Maybe some people prepare one paper for the 2 months, and this is much more time consuming, etc. I think really necessary is use the new technology, optimization the processes, and have to courage to change and tasting the new things or the new processes. But don't afraid of make the mistakes, because it's the life. We learn for our mistakes, and maybe this is some point for the national level prepare some subsidies or some I don't know grants for the municipalities to implement it innovation, and don't fear to make the mistakes.
So to support the modernization of the management of municipalities.
Yes.
Good. Mr. Macko, what I mean, you started this this round of discussion. You were the initiator of the basic idea of how to spend money, whether it should be more or less. What do you say to this discussion? Are you okay with this, or it went some other direction than you meant?
No, I mean, this is the right discussion. If you are a municipality, you should think of starting the innovations now. Don't delay for later, after the coronavirus frenzy, because it is never as good time as now. It is important to find the resources necessary. And if the budgetary constraint does not allow for new investment, there are ways how to do this, how to do the investment either into the processes or into other disruptive technologies that have return. If it has a return, then it is possible to use also the finances.
Yeah.
I appreciate what you said, that everybody was expecting the central government to provide more funding, maybe some helicopter money or something like that. It is not happening, at least not in our country. I think that it makes sense to invest wisely into technologies that have return. Then you always are right to do it, regardless of whether there is a crisis or not.
Yes, I would agree with you. We are very weak in investing money. We are still thinking of money as being expenses, like operational expenses. We don't think about spending money being investment, counting with return of the money. And I agree with you as well that The innovation can be financed not only by the grants of the government, it can be financed also by other financial facilities. Good. I think we have very small time for the last round, so I will start with Mr. Macko. Is there anything else you would like to mention during our discussion? I mean, is there anything I forgot to ask or you didn't have chance to say? And then we will go around and say goodbye.
Honestly, I think this is the main message, that municipalities should not delay thinking of innovations.
Good. I will maybe add something also. There is an example in Germany. I have been reading somewhere in the newspaper that the German government will send around 50 billion euro to the municipalities. I was wondering why to the municipalities, and now I understand much more why it's necessary to send the money through the municipalities. Because the municipalities have much bigger coverage, much bigger capacity all over the country than any central government could have. So it's necessary to finance this capacity. Okay, Brian, your last few sentences in this discussion.
I just based on what you've just mentioned there, the UK government is doing something similar, where it's investing heavily in its local authorities. Well, what it's also doing is driving down a message that technology needs to feed into a wider agenda, and they reference quite a lot common data architecture, which effectively means that what they are trying to deliver is an ability to look at data across numerous verticals, such as transport, energy, construction, education, etc., feeding into a much more common model, so that they can look at ways in which they can use that data, in a longitudinal aspect. So again, trying to learn more about how impact in one area could potentially have a further positive impact somewhere else, or in fact a negative impact. So that is where that investment is starting to create a much more smarter strategic ability for governments to work with cities to understand how they can deliver a much more holistic approach across the country.
So creating the synergies. Thank you very much. Mr. Káčer, your last contribution in this discussion.
Yes, maybe another way the COVID not stop the climate change and the smart city. It's maybe help to change the things about changing our climate, and I think it's the necessary the Green Deal. Maybe it's some part for motivation and help the local SMEs or innovation people, and I think it's necessary to try the new solution and new processes. That's all. All is about the innovation, because if the municipality give the opportunity for the local or for the students and to prepare or tasting the new solution, it should be a really good way for the spread in the whole of the Europe. That's all. Thank you.
Good, perfect. Thanks a lot for your words. And Mr. Bešenyi?
I would like to say we have very strong research, and for example, we have a lot of technologies that can help municipalities, but they are not tested. So we are missing something like audience, and we can really help local authorities with some problems, and we can share the cost of our research among more sides, and I think this can be very synergical for both sides.
so being a test bed for the new technologies. Good, perfect. Thank you very much for your contribution. It was a very interesting discussion. It could last another hour, but we have unfortunately to finish now. I hope this is a little bit also a wake-up call for the central government to think about the things differently if they listen to us. And so thank you very much, dear guests, for participating. I hope you will stay safe, and we all will still enjoy the prosperity we have, and might the innovation contribute to it. And thanks to our partners who enabled this Virtual Tech Summit Volume 2, and also thank to other participants, our followers, and we are looking forward to meeting you in next rounds of the Virtual Tech Summit, which will definitely happen because it makes very much sense for everybody. Thank you very much and have a nice day.
Thank you.
Bye.